Hello, I'm Lydia, one of the presidents for History Society at the University of Exeter. Tonight I'm here with Stuart Pollitt, one of the BBC correspondents for BBC North West.
That's right.
Fabulous. So first of all, it'd be really nice to talk to you about how you got into the media in the first place.
Okay, well it started here, I suppose, with expose in my case, because I started in newspapers. So it started here, doing loads of work experience, getting involved on campus and stuff. After that I was lucky enough to get a training contract, they were called then, with the Wolverhampton Express and Star, which was the biggest, at that point, newspaper outside of London. So they trained me up for 6 months and then let me loose on the job. I did that for about 4 years, and then I started to do some online stuff for them and some filming and things. And then I got into television. Someone gave me a job, luckily, at ITV in the Lake District, so we moved all the way 300 miles north to Carlisle for a couple of years. Ooh. So I worked there for a couple of years, and then I got a job at the BBC in Salford. So then I've been ever since for the last 3 years on North West Tonight, and also do things for the BBC News Channel and BBC Sport and various other things. So that's how it worked.
It sounds like you put an awful lot of work in. We all know that the media is a very high-pressured environment. What is it that you really love about the media that keeps you working in such an environment? The best thing about it is the variety. No, there's no doubt about it. There's only one thing that keeps me going, and that is the fact that when I get in the car in the morning, I think, I'm not quite sure what's happening today. The day that I get in the car and think, oh, this is what I'm doing today, and I know exactly how it's going to pan out, that's the time you've got to stop. You go in, and at 9:30 they give you any sort of story, from a murder to a really nice fun animal story, anything in between is what they do. So it's the variety that keeps me going, and the meeting of so many different people, because you are doing the most interesting thing that's going on in that area, in that city, in that town, in that region, country, whatever. That day you are doing that most interesting thing, so whatever that is bound to be quite fun. I think that's what I really crave about my future career, is having the different variety in what I do each day. What advice do you have for people getting into the media?
First thing, number one, work experience. Do as much as you can on the types of programmes or papers or whatever that you want to do. Number one is do that. Two is hassle every contact you can think of, every family friend or relation or friend of a friend who's already in the industry, to give you a leg up and get you through the door for 2 weeks or whatever. And thirdly, just think exactly where you want to go, how you want to do it, what your ambition is, and just keep working at that for as long as possible, and be prepared for loads of people to say sorry but no. And just keep going, because if you do keep going, you will get in eventually. Not saying how long it'll take, but it will happen eventually if you keep going long enough and you're dedicated enough.
So for you, it's perseverance that really works? It
is, yeah, because by doing that, you're kind of showing the skills you need every day. Because if you, on a story on a day, and you go and knock on someone's door and they're not around, you don't just disappear off. You wait for half an hour, or you go and knock on the neighbour's door, and you go and knock on 4 or 5 doors until you find somebody who knows where they are, who can then phone them up to get you to come round. So perseverance is kind of what you're doing every day. So if you can't demonstrate that in the first place, then it's going to be harder to get through the day.
What do you think the longest is that you spent chasing a story in a day? How many doors have you knocked on to get the right story for the day?
Loads. When you first start, you just do anything all the time, yeah. So God, I'm trying to think of a specific story. It's hard to think of a specific one, but yeah, certainly I spent 2 or 3 hours on a street, every door on a street. Not always in the nicest place. Not always in the nicest areas, and the people don't necessarily want to talk to you. But yeah, the longest story, and other things come to fruition, so you have an idea. And it might not happen for 2 months or 3 months, because you have to organise 3 or 4 different interviewees, and then one cancels and then it puts it back. So it can take months to take an idea and then actually see it on screen. It takes, the recent thing I did, filming some boxing in Canada, took me 4 weeks of almost constant phone calls and harassment of people to set up. Yeah, so it does take time.
But then it is obviously worth it. I know in XTV sometimes things take a lot of time to come to fruition. There are hundreds of students, particularly at Exeter, that are working in student media. What experiences do you think they should try and make sure they cover whilst at university to make themselves more employable?
It's a tricky one, that. Variety of skills is the main one. Multi-skills. Don't necessarily just think, oh, I want to be a presenter, therefore I'm just going to talk to the camera for 3 years. Try and learn the other side of it as well. If you want to be a cameraman, don't just film, go and look at the sound, look at the editing. increasingly now in the media, everyone has to be multi-skilled. That's the key. So I'm a reporter and a cameraman and an editor quite often. Not every day, but some days. So I've got a little kit in my car, and I'll be sent somewhere. I'll film it. I'll go back to the office and I'll put it all together. So that's like 3 skills in one. Same for the technical people. They're quite often a cameraman, a soundman, and they'll operate the satellite dish as well at the same time. So as many skills as you can get. That's the main thing. Don't necessarily, even if you've got a specific focus, don't just do that. Try and do a little bit of other stuff as well, just to broaden, because you'll need to do that when you get into the outside world as well.
And what was your favourite experience while working at Expose and then at the BBC?
Oh God, Expose. I think when in the 3rd year I did it, Exeter won the rugby Busa Cup at Twickenham.
Oh,
it was the first time they'd won it. So it was great. It was the first time we were covering kind of a proper sporting event, because it was a massive stadium. I think there was like 5,000-6,000 students from each university there. So it was a good atmosphere, and it was a proper big event, and it had coverage in the sort of national papers and stuff. So doing that for Expose was really good. It was like being a proper journalist, if you like, and actually doing something that was out there. So that was probably the best there. BBC-wise, the Olympics, that's dead easy to answer. 3 weeks at the Olympics, that's fine. Never top that. There were people there who'd done 10 Olympics. There were people in their mid-60s who said, this is the best it'll ever be. Because it was an Olympics in our country. So no matter where you go in the world afterwards will be interesting, but it won't ever be that. So that will be the top, and I'll probably give the same answer in 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways that's really exciting. Does that discourage you? Because, the Olympics was probably the best thing ever. So it's going to be hard to top that.
Good question. Yes, for a while. Everybody who worked on it, we had you do 3 weeks solid, so you then have 2 weeks off at the end. And everyone who came back after that 2 weeks, who was on our team, which was pulled from all around the country, so I didn't see them necessarily for long afterwards, had the same sort of come down. Bit like
probably I've been at the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. Bit like probably when you get when you graduate from here, you think, oh, I really enjoyed that. I wonder if anything else will be as much fun again. But yeah, after a few months, you get on and try and work out how you can get to Rio for the next one or whatever. But it was hard to deal with, when something so amazing, nothing's going to top it, is it? So every day can't be as good as those 3 weeks, but it can still be interesting.
Well, that leads very nicely on to my next question. What are your plans for the future?
I'd like to just progress further. Now, it's very difficult. It's a pyramid system, effectively. At the bottom, there's lots of different options. When you get to sort of where I am, which is reasonably well up, it's harder because there's fewer jobs. There's only probably 4 or 5 jobs within the sports side, which is where I'd like to go, which I can get. So trying to work towards doing that, and that just means I'm having to basically do what I've told all you guys to do, which is come up with ideas and hassle the person who gives out the jobs and beat his door down and just do as much as you can. So I'd like to just progress further. So national news and other big events and stuff. So we'll see.
Well, we look forward to seeing you on our televisions more often. Thank you so much, Stuart. You've been wonderful. I've been Lydia for X Media.